Now we'll be taking a look at what is expected of the incoming administration in terms of forming his cabinet. And as we know, many people are already jostling to be part of the administration. Who should be part of it? Who should be left out? Should it be made solely of politicians? Should it have an, inclusion of technocrats? And then the question will be, what is their contribution? And so should it be about contribution? Should it be about what you actually brought to the table during the electioneering process? If it is not so, how do you compensate those that actually worked for this success? And then other people will tell you it should be a unitary government. Bring people from other parties to form the cabinet. Will that be right? What about those that fought tooth and nail, those that had sleepless nights, working day and night to ensure that the president-elect actually got the day, gets victory? So much to talk about when it comes to the people jostling to be part of the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We'll look at political analyst, Mr. Sadiq Jikta, who will be taking us through what it should look like, what it should be when the president eventually takes power. Very good morning to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so quickly, let's get your remark concerning the so much war, now of words, by different people on who should it be when it comes to the cabinet of Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Yes, thank you very much for having me this morning. Yes, let's go back to the acceptance speech when he was given the certificate of return. The president-elect, in his acceptance speech, emphasized on all-inclusive government. What this means is that he is bringing people who are competent, to drive the ship. People who are competent, who can, deliver in his agenda. So it's not going to end in just those that are in his party, the APC, and he's going to run an all-inclusive government. That was why he had to call on all other party members to come and look at it as a national assignment on how to deliver this country, how to bring the dividends of democracy to all citizens of this country. So the cabinet is not going to be limited to the APC members alone, but it's going to be extended to all Nigerians. So, and he has emphasized that in his acceptance speech, and I think that's what his administration or the cabinet is going to look like. So we shouldn't be surprised if we see Labour Party member or the PDP member, because he has that open heart to bring in all members, every citizen of this country that is capable of delivering in this administration, because the benefit is going to be for all Nigerians. Yes.
Well,
yes.
Just like you mentioned, we shouldn't be surprised when we see different persons cut across the party lines. But talking about employment or appointments, what areas do you think the president-elect should be more concerned in terms of putting people in that position? It's not about picking anybody simply because you helped me to get a victory at the polls. What should he be looking at, and what are the characters of the persons he should be looking at in terms of political appointments?
So let's talk about security, because security is one concern of every Nigerian. And in different fora, I've spoken about security, and most Nigerians are very concerned about that. So if we look at what has been in the media, what is being tossed in the media, you will see a name of a prominent Nigerian who has contributed a lot in the security of this country. It was during his time that we saw bombing, was brought to the minimal. In short, we stopped seeing bombing in this country when the Boko Haram was at its peak. So immediately he was given that responsibility. He really addressed the matter. We stopped seeing bombing, and we went.
Was the person operating outside the service, or was
he was part of the service, and he's one of those names that is popping up. And people like Tukur Yusuf Buratai, during his time as Chief of Army Staff, his tenure as Chief of Army Staff achieved a lot in terms of security in this country. So if we are seeing such name in this, what we are seeing in the media, I think that's it's a good candidate.
But are you aware,
in terms of security?
When the late Chief of Army Staff was asked to make provision of how money allocated for weapons used during the execution of this same war you talked about during this time, and he said the question should be asked to his predecessor, who was Buratai, and since then we didn't really get response from Buratai. And if the National Assembly was asking to find out how money allocated for weapons during that period when the war is being executed, how would you now say it's in a better position to...
You see, sometimes we are not privy to some information, and we talk out of context, because he was talking about the past issue that was spoken about was the issue of past administration, and it is right for whoever was there during that time which a particular project was going on to talk about it. I think that's what he meant. And you see, there was a lot of security programs that was going on during that time, and that extended to the subsequent dispensations of that regime of the subsequent who took over from him. So those kind of projects, you don't expect him to talk about. It's him, the past regime, that will answer to that. I think that's what he meant. And if you look at, it was during that time we did a lot of military procurement, that helped supported the war in the Northeast. And a lot of procurement whom the government did was really helped. Unlike the past regime during the time of the PDP in 2015, that money was allocated, nothing was done, and just some few politicians shared the money. But in his dispensation, he did a lot.
Okay, let us look at the president and his quest to have certain people to be the head of a National Assembly, the Senate and the House of Rep. Why should he be thinking of who should be the Senate President, the Deputy Senate President, the Speaker, and the Deputy Speaker?
Yes. The issue of the National Assembly, party have some role to play, since the way Nigeria work, there is this federal character allocation of positions, and the APC as a party will not, go out of this the way Nigeria is designed for candidates to come from different, have the spread of leadership. So Mr. Tinubu coming to have his candidate, although he hasn't come out to declare his candidate, but it is the media now currently that are really toasting names. And I think whatever we say now is not going to be the final representation of what is going to happen in the National Assembly. Until the 10th Assembly convene, that's when them in the National Assembly, the senators or the members of the House of Representatives, they are the ones that are going to select their leaders. But we now will talk about choices, those that we want to see head
the party and the president-elect also have some names pinned down.
Yes.
Yeah, so why don't you allow them to do their thing? We know in the 8th Assembly some names were penned down, but it didn't go. It didn't work. Some persons smuggled their way. Really, we can't say really smuggled their way. It didn't go the way of those anointed. Other people came and took it away from them, but they never had, a peaceful, tenure. And then in the Ninth Assembly, we saw that the names that were anointed were the ones that actually came on board. And can you say we have done well with those? Because if you look at their performance in some quarter, they tell you, no, these guys are rubber stamp and all of that. So in the 10th Assembly, we're thinking that the president-elect should allow members of the Senate, allow members of the House of Rep to do their thing. Yours is to, work with them, with a view of delivering the dividend of democracy.
Yes, there is an extent that party can intervene in this very matter. Even the president-elect, they have extent that they can go. They can only recommend candidates based on how they want the next government, how smoothly they want to run the government. And that's why they will want to be involved. They get the right candidate that they can work with. But there are limits to all this, because the finality will be in the National Assembly when the 10th Assembly will convene. So that is where they will select their leaders. So we shouldn't expect, we should expect the unexpected, because anything can happen. We can be calling names, declaring our candidates, but until it gets to the National Assembly when they will select their leaders, that's when another politicking will play out. So let's watch, and it is the common practice for a political party to have their candidate, their anointed candidates. It's part of the practice here in Nigeria. But that is not the finality of the game. So until when we get to the National Assembly, when the members of the National Assembly will be selecting their leaders, and that's when we will see the final outcome. But we are all free to make a choice of our candidates. This is politics. So I can always say, this is my preferred candidate, and give reason for supporting my candidates.
But don't you think at the end, now, like the statement he made, Robert Stamp, we've seen that played out so many times. People keep saying the National Assembly, especially the Senate, are always a rubber stamp of the executive arms of government if they should continue to decide who will be the head of the National Assembly. Like what's in the last administration, the outgoing administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, we saw the romance between him and the Senate president. It's obvious, even when bills are sent to the House that has to do with the executive is quickly passed. And so many persons have always complained that the National Assembly, in the Ninth Assembly, we are not on their own. I see they are always waiting for instructions from the presidency before they go ahead with any legislative matters.
You see, the issue is a harmonious relationship between all arms of government. Every government that will want to have a National Assembly that they will have smooth, a smooth relationship. It's not answerable to them. That's a different arm of government. And we, the public, tag it as being rubber stamp. No, it's just about establishing good relationship and some, it's not automatic that anything that comes from the executive that the National Assembly accept. I disagree with that, because there are a lot of bills out there which are sent by the executive, which the National Assembly didn't go in that way. They didn't take to, and it's still lying there in the National Assembly. I've seen a lot of bills that has been turned down. I've seen the National Assembly passing some bills which suffers presidential assent. So we don't say there's like a rubber stamp, because it has not been smooth ride all along, even between this outgoing National Assembly and the executive. So if we pronounce it as a rubber stamp, I think personally I would disagree with that, because we expect smooth relationship between them, but we don't think that it will just be an easy ride for the executive and the National Assembly. So let's expect that there will be a harmonious relationship, a cohesion between the bodies.
Yes. Okay, now for the cabinet, where we are going to be having, many names, for ministerial position, some for heads of agencies and departments. And, there are so many commissions. Some of the heads, their tenure will be coming to an end. You know, some are already serving for the second term. What should the president base his criteria on? On competence or on zoning?
For me, competence, it should be the way to go. But competence, yes, of course, and zoning too, because in every zone there are competent people to be in that position. You see, like for the names we are seeing in the media today, for example, Malam Nasiru El-Rufai, they are like, toasting his name to be the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, which I think he is very, very competent to handle that office. Where, as I've mentioned earlier, Tukur Buratai is a good security expert of international repute because he is an intellectual too in security, not just in Nigeria and Africa, because he has written a lot of books and a lot of papers on security issues. So, and we have El-Rufai, for example, he was the Minister of FCT. We knew what he did, and we are still enjoying his programs up till this moment. I don't think we have seen any minister of FCT that have worked, that have matched what El-Rufai have done. You see, and a lot of them out there that have worked in Lagos State when he was the governor of, the president-elect was the governor of Lagos State. We see Wale Edu, we know what he did as commissioner in Lagos State then. So all these names that we're seeing, I see them as very competent.
Yeah, but can't we have, they call it fresh blood in local parlance?
Yes.
Can we have new guys that, are top-notch, but they have not been given opportunity? Because even the El-Rufai you mentioned was given an opportunity. Okay. He was somewhere in Zaria, and then he was called to come and
let's go back. Let's go back
from the BPE. He was, promoted to be So can't we? There are many people, like that. Can't we bring them,
Let's go back to Mr. President's acceptance speech. He made mention of bringing the youth up, working with the youth. So they are now, we will see new names, I assure you, new young breed that are coming up. Him, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president-elect, he is good at looking at candidates' competence. And I believe he is going to select from the good hands that we have in this country. Yes,
but
because
we've not been seeing, just like you said, speculations of names of youths.
Yes, because they are not. You see, it's not a media sensation. Those new names are not. The new names that will come on board are not media sensation, and that's why we're not seeing them now. But the names that we are seeing are those names who are popular names that we are seeing in the media in the game, and that's why we are seeing. Yes, but new name will come in. And I assure you, new name will come in who are going to play a role in this very dispensation. You are not seeing the names there because it won't make the headline in the news. Media people, you want news that will make headlines. And I think my opinion is why you don't see those names for now is because it's not a media sensation. But by the time the work is done, you will see fresh blood, fresh people with fresh ideas who can come up to get the work done.
What do you envisage the president-elect picking probably members of the cabinet from this outgoing administration, since they are on the same path?
Yeah, we don't rule that out because there are a lot of those in this very administration that really worked to bring in this government. And it won't be out of place if he gets some good hands from this very administration, because a lot of them from this administration who did very well. And if he's bringing them back, I think it's a very good idea. And
we know that he was part of the cabinet for this outgoing administration by suggesting it. The vice president from Lagos was one time is a commissioner also in Lagos.
Yes.
We know the former governor of Lagos State, Babashola, also was part of the suggestion. So it means the present administration still have a lot to do in the coming government.
Yes, of course. The coming government is still an APC government. And it is still this member of the APC that worked for this government to come in.
We're still going backwards. We're looking at
no.
The things that we've been experiencing in the former.
I don't know. It's not. This is new government, new policy, new administration. The man in charge who called the shot is a new person that has the experience. It's not like the current. It's different from the current administration. The current administration is under the President Muhammadu Buhari, and the new administration will come under the president-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So there are two different people, and two approaches of doing things.
So not party this time, not looking at party.
Yes, the party have the role to play in terms of bringing in party can nominate members. They can be given opportunity to bring in members of the new cabinet. But it will be based on competence, as I've said earlier. I assure you, competence will be the order of the day in the long run.
I must thank you for your time with us on the program.
Thank you, sir, for having me.
The president-elect looks at
competence, sure.
Because that is what everyone needs now, not the system whereby the person says, allow me to crawl, then I'll walk before I will run. Let's have those that will come and they will start running. Yes. Thank you so much for your time, Sadiq Jikta, for this discussion.